My name is Bella George, and I'm 32. In systems work, failures don't explode all at once. They whisper, latency spikes, a checksum off by one, a lock you didn't know you were holding. With people, the signals are softer, but they're there. A flicker, a phrase, a pause that doesn't belong. Liam's text arrived at 7:14 p.m., exactly as my kettle clicked off. I'm staying at my ex's for a few days to clear my head. Don't make it weird. He meant Marissa Cole, the ex from college, the one he called ancient history when I found their messages 6 months into our relationship, the one who still harmlessly liked every photo he posted, the one who coincidentally attended the same industry fundraiser last year. I stood at the counter, phone in one hand, steam curling around my face. It took me 5 minutes to type 5 words. Take all the time you need. Then I did what my job trained me to do: identify vulnerabilities, plan contingencies, execute solutions. Feelings could ride in the passenger seat, but they weren't touching the wheel. First vulnerability: residence access. The lease sat in my name. Liam had never signed the addendum, not out of malice, just drift. I emailed building management to remove him from the authorized resident list. Marcus, our doorman with the gentle baritone, replied within 10 minutes. Understood, Ms. George. Second, amenities and security. The gym, pool, parking garage were all tied to my membership. I asked the admin to suspend his fob, not as punishment, as architecture. If a door is no longer yours, your key shouldn't still fit. Third, communications. 6 months ago, when Liam's phone shattered on a sidewalk in Austin, I'd added an extra line to my plan so he could work while insurance dragged its feet. I canceled that line. I added one sentence to the account note: former domestic partner, line closed, device paid. My cursor blinked like a metronome. Fourth, finances. We kept separate personal accounts, plus a joint savings for shared goals. I transferred his portion back to him, memoed joint allocation reversal, and exported the ledger as a PDF. If you do things cleanly, you don't have to do them twice. Fifth, property. I packed his things that were exclusively his: clothes, tools, the espresso maker he loved as if it had a heartbeat. I labeled every box and added a printed inventory, then arranged a courier to his mother's house. My note read, "These belong to Liam. Please ensure he receives them." Sixth, the event. We weren't just romantically entangled, we were logistically entangled. Wedding venue, photographer, caterer. Their contracts all included postponement clauses because I'd insisted on them. I notified each vendor of a hold. The emails were neutral, professional, almost boring. Boring is a kindness when the alternative is combustion. I didn't rage or beg or flood him with question marks. I built a separation the way you build a bridge to carry the load it must carry, accurately so it doesn't collapse under panic. The next morning, my phone sang a number I didn't recognize. I let it die on the counter. It sang again, a different number, then a third, and a blinking voicemail badge like a red eye. I didn't listen, not yet. I went to work, a short commute to the spare bedroom no longer holding Liam's winter coats. My screen bloomed with tickets and graphs. My brain gratefully obeyed. I documented a flaky synchronization bug and thought about the word flaky. At 3:42 p.m., Marcus called. "Ms. George, there's a Mr. Liam Hart here, insistent he lives in your unit. He's not on the resident list, and his fob isn't working. Protocol asked me to confirm." My throat was a small, dry room. "Thank you, Marcus. Please don't allow him up. If he needs to reach me, he can do it through appropriate channels." Understood. 20 minutes later, the voicemails came like weather. The first, Liam. Voice tight, indignant. "What are you doing, Bella? I came home and they wouldn't let me in. My key. What did you do to my key? And my phone is dead. Call me back, now." The second, angrier. "This isn't funny. Where are my things? I can't get into our apartment, our gym. What are you trying to prove?" The third, from a familiar number, his mother. Careful, trembling. "Bella? Honey, boxes just arrived here with a note. Is Liam okay? I brewed tea I didn't drink. The messages kept stacking, changing shape, the way heat shimmers. Rage, then confusion, then wounded performance. I pressed play on none of them. If you learn to hear the shape of a storm, you don't need to step outside to know it's raining. At 7:03 p.m., I sent one text to his mother's phone. "Bella, Liam, I acknowledge your calls. To be clear, And there is no our apartment. The lease is in my name. There is no our phone plan. I canceled the additional line I was paying for. Email. There is no our wedding until there is trust. All vendors are postponed. Your belongings were delivered to your mother's house 4 days earlier than you might have needed them. If you believe anything is missing, email a list. I'll check against the inventory. I put my phone face down and ate dinner standing at the counter like a person who'd forgotten chairs exist. On my fridge is a photo strip, me and Liam in black and white at a street fair, laughing, his mouth near my ear. When I first taped it there, I thought it looked like a future. Tonight it looked like paper. The spin began almost immediately. A group text chimed. His sister, 2 of his friends, a cousin I'd only met twice. What the hell, Bella? Overreact much? He just needed space. I muted the thread. I've never understood the theology that declares space a sacred right only when men want it and women must supply it like candles. At 9:11 p.m., a private message from Liam's number, now piggybacking via Wi-Fi, I guessed. Marissa is just a friend. I needed to talk without your suspicious energy. You shut me out for no reason. Can we talk like adults? I looked at the word friend. It does so much work these days. I typed slowly so I wouldn't burn. Bella, you texted that you're staying at your ex-girlfriend's to clear your head. I took it at face value and gave you clear space, including the space outside my door. If you want to talk, send me an email. I'm documenting everything. He sent 3 dots, then nothing. The dots told me enough. He wanted the performance, not the record. I washed a plate. I wiped a counter already clean. Behind the domestic choreography was a memory with sharp edges. 3 weeks earlier, a thin wall over here. Liam's voice that wasn't meant for me. No, I haven't told her yet. It's complicated. The deposits are already paid. I just need more time. I hadn't recorded it. I had done the thing I always do. Typed meticulous notes, time-stamped with context. In my field, we call it post-incident documentation. You think you'll remember, but you won't. Not cleanly, not convincingly. Paper remembers for you. The kettle clicked again. I didn't turn it on. People think systems work is cold. It's not. It's tender. It says, the world will wobble. Let me build the rails so you don't fall off. Tonight, that tenderness turned inward. I wasn't punishing Liam. I was protecting the only person I could protect without permission, me. At 10:38 p.m., my phone pinged with a new, quiet thing. An email filtered into a folder I'd created 15 minutes earlier. Heart Weekly. The subject, you're being dramatic. I didn't open it. Not because I was afraid of the words, but because I already knew the plot. It starts with accusation, detours into minimization, and, if you let it, ends in your apology for a thing you didn't do. Some bridges are inspected, repaired, reopened. Some are closed to traffic and turned into monuments to warn the next traveler. Here is where the load exceeded the span. I set my alarm. I placed my phone on Do Not Disturb. In the silence after, I heard the apartment breathe, an old building's murmurs, the thin walls, the city. Somewhere a couple laughed. Somewhere a door closed. Somewhere a woman poured an even line down the center of her life and decided which side was hers. Tomorrow there would be coffee with Liam's father, the neutral public place, the quiet table where I would lay out not feelings, but facts. I'd bring my notes. I'd bring my softness for a man who had raised a son and now faced the version of him he didn't want to see. I turned off the light. In the dark, my pulse slowed, steady as a metronome. The bridge held. It had to. The next morning came in grayscale. Rain threaded down the window, quiet and deliberate, the kind that makes you hear your own breath too clearly. I'd slept 4 hours, tops. Not from heartbreak, from logistics. My mind kept cycling through open loops, the florist refund, the photographer's clause, the venue's 45-day window. Liam always said I ran relationships like projects. Maybe he was right. The problem wasn't the planning. It was that he mistook structure for absence of love. At 8:30 a.m., the phone started again. Different numbers, unfamiliar voices, variations on, please pick up. I didn't. When someone shows you their first boundary violation, believe them. It's rarely their last. By noon, his mother had called 3 times. Her 4th voicemail finally cracked through the white noise in my head. Bella, sweetheart, Liam's distraught. He says he can't reach you. He won't eat. Please, just talk to him. You know how sensitive he is. Sensitive. That word again. As if sensitivity cancels accountability. At 1 p.m., I sent a single message. Bella, Mrs. Hart, thank you for your concern. I've spoken to Liam via text and outlined next steps. There's nothing more to discuss right now. Her reply, he's a good man, Bella, just confused. Bella, confusion isn't contagious, Mrs. Hart. I'm perfectly clear. Then I muted the thread. At 3:00, my doorbell rang. Marcus's voice buzzed through the intercom. Ms. George, there's a delivery here from Mr. Hart's office. A package couriered to me. Inside, a leather-bound planner. Liam's handwriting on a post-it. You left this at my place once. Thought you might need it. I hadn't, which meant this was an excuse, a breadcrumb. I placed it on the counter untouched. Boundaries aren't walls. They're proof of self-respect. But they feel like walls when you're the one outside. The real confrontation came later that evening. I was sitting in a corner cafe 3 blocks from my apartment. The place had yellow light and the smell of baked sugar, neutral ground for awkward talks. Liam's father, Mr. Hart, arrived 10 minutes early, hat in hand, the way older men do when they wish they could fix something, but know they can't. Bella, he said softly, sliding into the seat across from me, thank you for meeting me. I nodded. Of course, I appreciate you reaching out directly. He exhaled, eyes tired. Liam tells me you locked him out, canceled his accounts, sent his things away. He says you overreacted, that he just needed time to think about the wedding. I wanted to hear your side before I step in. Step in. The diplomatic phrase parents use before realizing there's no bridge left to stand on. I slid a folder from my tote. I'm not sure what he's told you, but I document things for a living. 3 weeks ago, I overheard a conversation between Liam and his ex, Marissa Cole. His eyebrows lifted slightly. He didn't know I was home early, I continued. He was on speakerphone. I noted what I heard, timestamps, context. I opened to the first page. The lines I'd written then stared back in clean black ink. Liam. No, I haven't told her yet. It's complicated. The deposits are already paid. I'll figure it out. Mr. Hart's hand went to his forehead, slow. My God. There's more, I said quietly, but that's enough to understand the pattern. We sat in a silence thick enough to taste. Finally, he said, his mother and I raised him to tell the truth. I don't know where he learned this performance. I don't think it's learned, I said. It's practiced. He gave a sad, brief smile. You sound like someone giving a seminar. It's how I stay standing, I admitted. He looked at me for a long moment. What happens now? Now? Nothing. I folded the folder shut. The relationship ended when he chose to stay with her. Everything since is administrative. He nodded slowly. You don't need my validation, but you have my respect. I didn't realize how much I'd needed to hear that until the words landed. When he left, he touched the brim of his hat again, like closing a door politely behind him. The cafe light caught the silver in his hair. He looked smaller somehow. Walking home, I passed our old florist's shop. The window display was half changed, white lilies giving way to late summer roses. In the reflection, I caught my own face, steady, composed, but distant in a way that scared me. Was this strength or numbness? Maybe both. Maybe that's how recovery begins, a quiet refusal to fall apart on schedule. At home, I opened my laptop. 17 unread emails blinked in my Heart Weekly folder. Subjects like, you're misunderstanding everything, and one mistake shouldn't erase 3 years. I hovered, then clicked one. Liam. Marissa isn't even here anymore. I just needed space. You made this nuclear. Everyone thinks you've lost it. Do you really want to look this crazy? I laughed. Not the amused kind. The exhausted, airless kind that sounds like a cough. Bella. If everyone's calling me crazy, at least I know I'm the only sane person in the room. I didn't send it. Instead, I archived the message and typed 3 words in my notes. He's building narrative. The next morning, I found out just how far that narrative had spread. My coworker, Dana, texted a screenshot of Liam's social post, a long caption under a photo of him looking pensive by the river. Sometimes people walk away when you're just trying to find yourself. I guess not everyone understands space. The comments section was a pity party. Stay strong, King. She doesn't deserve you. Women overreact to everything. The irony almost made me choke. Liam wasn't finding himself. He was finding an audience. Dana texted, "You okay? Want me to clap back?" I replied, "No, let him perform. Every actor needs a stage. Still, I couldn't stop scanning the comments until I saw one that froze me. Marissa Cole liked this post. Of course she did. My cursor hovered over her name. Her profile picture was a concert selfie, big smile, stage lights behind her. She looked exactly as I remembered from the few old photos Liam had refused to delete. I clicked her profile. Public. Scrolled once. And there it was. A new photo. Liam's reflection faintly visible in the window behind her. Caption. Some people never change. Hashtag old times. Something twisted low in my stomach. Not jealousy, recognition. The way a system hums before it fails. That night, I couldn't sleep. My inbox pinged again. Another email. Subject line, please just talk to me. I opened it, half out of fatigue, half curiosity. Liam, I'm not with Marissa, I swear. You're making everything harder than it needs to be. Please meet me tomorrow. I can explain. Bella, explain in writing. Paper remembers better than people. He didn't reply. Instead, a new message arrived, not from him. The sender, Eliza Tran. The subject, you don't know me, but you should. The email began, Hi Bella, I'm Marissa's girlfriend. Or was, until last night. My pulse quickened as I read on. She told me Liam was just a friend needing support before his wedding. I believed her. Then I found their messages, more than friendly, less than innocent. Thought you deserved to know you're not the only one who got the space speech. I stared at the screen, the words blurring. Not the only one. The phrase echoed like an empty room. The first version of Liam's story had collapsed under its own weight, but something colder began to form in its place. 2 women, 2 apartments, one man's clarity, and a pattern that looked eerily familiar, like mirrored code. I hit reply. Bella, thank you, Eliza. If you're open to it, I'd like to compare timelines. Because sometimes the truth isn't discovered. It's cross-referenced. It's strange how silence becomes a form of noise. That week, every notification sounded like an alarm. Every pause between emails felt like bated breath. By Thursday, Liam's version of the story had gone public. Someone sent me screenshots from a private group chat we both used to be in, his old college circle. He'd written, Bella locked me out of my own place, canceled my accounts, sent my stuff away. I didn't even cheat. I just needed time to think. She's been controlling for months. I feel like I was living under surveillance. The word controlling clung to me like static. I could almost hear him saying it in that wounded tone that always made people rush to comfort him. They didn't see what came before. The half-truths, the shifting timelines, the apologies that arrived just late enough to sound rehearsed. That night, Eliza and I spoke for the first time. She sounded young, younger than me, by at least 5 years, but her voice carried that brittle kind of calm people get when they're forcing their hands not to shake. I thought I was helping him, she said. Marissa told me she and Liam were still friends, that he was having cold feet about marrying someone who didn't understand him. Let me guess, I said. She said he needed someone who really saw him. Eliza laughed softly, a sound with no humor in it. Exactly. She forwarded me screenshots of their messages. Liam's tone in them was intimate, practiced, flattering. The same vocabulary he used with me early on. You make me feel grounded. No one listens like you. I need clarity. Different woman, same script. I scrolled until I reached the line that made my chest tighten. Liam, once things settle with Bella, I'll figure out what I actually want. Once things settle, not if, not when I talk to her, just once the fallout is tidy enough to move on. I thanked Eliza, told her she didn't owe me anything more, but she said, actually, I'm not done. There was a pause, then she admitted, Marissa's gone. She packed her things and left my apartment this morning. No note. Of course she did. History loves repetition. Over the next few days, Liam's attempts at communication shifted tone again. Emails now came twice a day. Small essays of regret dressed up as reasoning. Liam, you shut me out before I could explain. There was never anything physical. I needed time to remember who I was. You're being vindictive, Bella. This is cruel. Liam, next day. You're right. I shouldn't have gone to Marissa's, but I thought transparency would matter. You turned it into punishment. Liam, later that night. I miss you. Can we please start over? I read them all, then dragged them into the same folder. Documentation, I whispered. Not closure, just data. When people can't control the story, they try to control the version that survives. On the 10th day, I decided to answer. Not to reconcile, but to clarify. Bella, Liam, you didn't lose me because you needed space. You lost me because you filled that space with someone you once swore was a ghost. I'm not vindictive. I'm finished. Please stop writing. He didn't reply, but within hours, his sister texted, Bella, I don't know what happened between you and Liam, but he's in a bad way. He says you ruined his life. Ruined. Another melodramatic headline for a story he wrote himself. I typed, he's a grown man who made choices. I'm just confirming receipt. Then deleted it unsent. Some replies don't deserve the courtesy of being real. 3 days later, Eliza sent me a final message, a digital postscript to this twisted web. Marissa reached out to me today. She said Liam promised he'd leave you once the timing made sense. When I told her you'd already ended it, she sounded surprised, like the plan had been rewritten without her input. There it was, the truth neither of them had planned for, the script ending early. Meanwhile, life in my apartment resumed its quiet rhythm. The space felt too big at first, like a room still holding someone's shadow, but routine heals in slow increments. The sound of the kettle, the hum of my laptop, the first morning I realized I hadn't checked my phone out of dread. I started going to the gym again, the one Liam no longer had access to. There, surrounded by strangers and fluorescent light, I felt something I hadn't in weeks, ownership of my own silence. People underestimate peace. They call it loneliness when it's really recovery in disguise. But the story wasn't done with me yet. One evening, I opened Instagram out of habit and froze. A new post from Liam Hart. Photo. Him at a bar, whiskey glass in hand, a self-conscious smirk under dim lighting. Caption. Some bridges burn themselves. Some just realize who was walking alone. In the background, almost out of frame, I caught a blurred glimpse of Marissa's hair. Familiar copper waves, same as before. He hadn't learned a thing, just changed the lighting. I closed the app. I didn't block him this time. Blocking implies you still expect noise. Later that night, I sat by the window, writing in my journal. Not a systems log, just a confession to myself. What do you call it when a person dismantles their own life piece by piece and blames you for not holding it together? No one tells you that detachment isn't immediate. You still wake up wanting to explain, wanting to be understood, until one morning you don't. The next day, I did something small but symbolic. I logged into our wedding planning email, renamed the shared folder Archive, and moved it to my personal drive. Not deleted, archived. Proof that it existed once, but no longer needed to run. That weekend, a courier knocked on my door. A small, unmarked package rested on the mat. Inside, my grandmother's engagement ring, wrapped in linen, with a note in Mr. Hart's handwriting. This should be returned to your family. No apology, no lecture, just dignity. I stared at the ring for a long time before slipping it into its velvet box. Grief didn't rise like I expected. Only gratitude that not everyone in that family confused silence for weakness. That night, I opened Eliza's last message one more time. She'd written, "Funny thing, I thought I was the supporting character in their story. Turns out we were both just evidence." Evidence. That word lingered. I thought about all the women like us. Methodical, rational, told we're cold because we don't collapse the way people expect. Maybe we weren't cold. Maybe we just stopped mistaking chaos for passion. I closed my laptop, turned off the light, and let the city hum without interruption. The spin had ended. All that remained was gravity, pulling truth back into place. There's a moment after every disaster where the noise dies and you start hearing paperwork, the whisper of receipts, the click of refund confirmations, the polite phrasing of closure. 2 weeks after I ended things, my apartment had gone eerily quiet. No boxes, no shared clutter, no echo of another toothbrush in the bathroom. Just me, my plants, and the faint hum of systems returning to equilibrium. I began with the practical. The wedding fallout. The venue manager called first, a woman named Sophie whose voice sounded like empathy run through a filter of experience. "You'd be surprised," she said gently, after I explained. "This happens more often than you'd think." Her tone wasn't judgmental, just pragmatic. We reviewed the contract together, clause by clause. Thanks to the cancellation terms I'd insisted on when we booked, almost everything was refundable. Caterer, refund minus 10%. Photographer, full credit, transferable to any future event. Florist, partial return, roses non-refundable. Apparently love and flowers share that trait. The irony didn't miss me. When she said, "Would you like the refund sent to both accounts or just yours?" I replied, "Both. It's cleaner that way." Because even when people behave badly, Fairness isn't about them. It's about who you are when no one's grading you anymore. I calculated Liam's portion to the cent, made a transfer to his personal account, and typed the memo line slowly. Refund distribution finalized. No note, no subtext, just a digital severance of what used to be ours. Legal questions. A few friends warned me about tenancy complications. He lived there almost 2 years, they said. So I checked. The lawyer I consulted was brisk and unsentimental. Leaseholder's name determines occupancy rights unless there's direct rent payment to the landlord. You're fine. Just keep your documentation. Documentation. My favorite word lately. I'd built an entire emotional firewall out of it. He asked if I'd recorded Liam's conversation with Marissa. No, I said. I just heard it through the wall and wrote everything down. He smiled faintly. Smart. You'd be surprised how far clean notes go in court. I wasn't planning to take it that far, but knowing I could, if needed, gave me the same calm as locking a door before bed. The ring. 3 days later, I received another message from Mr. Hart, Liam's father. Short, formal, and kind. Ms. George, I wanted you to know I sent back the engagement ring via courier today. My wife and I both agree it belongs with your family. I'm truly sorry for how things unfolded. The package arrived that evening. The velvet box was lighter than I remembered. Inside, the diamond caught the lamplight and threw it back at me, a tiny, precise reflection. I closed the lid and exhaled, not out of sadness, but out of symmetry. The ring had traveled a full circle, returning exactly where it started. There's poetry in systems completing their loops, even painful ones. The sisters call. That weekend, my phone buzzed again. This time, the name on screen made me pause. Claire Hart, Liam's younger sister. We'd always gotten along. Movie nights, shared playlists, sarcastic texts about her brother's inability to cook rice. Her voice was hesitant. Hey, Bella. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for the things I said. I didn't know the full story. Liam made it sound like you kicked him out over nothing, but after Dad talked to him... She trailed off, then sighed. I don't know what he's thinking. Anyway, I just wanted you to know I don't hate you, and I really hope you're okay. I smiled, genuinely this time. I am, or at least I'm getting there. Tell your parents thank you for their grace. Yeah, she said softly. They said you handled everything like an adult, maybe better than he did. After we hung up, I realized that might have been the only apology I'd get, and maybe the only one that mattered. The weekly emails. Liam's emails never stopped completely. They just evolved. Week 1, rage. You blindsided me. You made me look insane. Week 2, bargaining. If we just talk, I know we can fix this. Week 3, remorse wrapped in logic. I understand why you were hurt, but don't you think this went too far? Week 4, guilt disguised as vulnerability. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Each one more carefully composed than the last, like essays graded on emotional appeal. I read them all, but I never replied. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's the absence of one. The unexpected message. Late one night, I got another DM from Eliza. You were right. He's been messaging Marissa again. I blocked them both. But thank you for being the first person to believe me when I said something felt off. It struck me how easily truth gets dismissed until someone else confirms it. Maybe that's why I documented everything. Not just for proof, but for sanity. A few days later, I received one final message from Liam's father. He's moved out of state for work, said he needs a reset. We're hoping he learns from this. I just wanted to wish you peace, Bella. You deserve it. I typed back. Thank you. I hope he finds clarity, and I hope your family heals. Because anger is heavy. I'd carried it long enough. That night, I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine and looked out at the city. The skyline steady, lights flickering like new data points waiting to be written. I thought about systems again, how every failure report ends with resolution implemented. My resolution wasn't revenge, it was understanding. Understanding that love isn't measured by how much chaos you can survive together. It's measured by how much peace you're willing to protect alone. I closed my eyes and whispered to the quiet air. End of incident. Report complete. And for the first time in months, I believed it. It's been 6 weeks since the text that rewired my life. Funny how quickly people move on from catastrophe, or pretend to. The city hasn't changed. The coffee shop still smells like burnt vanilla. Marcus still greets me with his soft, "Good morning, Ms. George." But I've changed. Quietly, decisively. I'm not angry anymore. Anger was useful. It kept me upright while the world recalibrated. But it's too heavy to live with long term. Now what's left is something cleaner. Distance. Perspective. Proof. Rewriting the system. A few weeks back, a friend asked if I regretted how I handled it. The cold efficiency, as she put it. I told her I wasn't cold. I was precise. When a bridge shows cracks, you don't keep driving and hope love fills the gap. You close it, inspect it, and decide whether it's still safe to cross. Liam thought love meant forgiveness on demand. I think love means accountability with compassion. And compassion doesn't mean letting someone use your heart like a revolving door. That's what he never understood. He thought boundaries were walls. They were scaffolding, the thing that kept me from collapsing. The final email. This morning I checked the Heart weekly folder for the last time. There it was, his final email, time-stamped 2:11 a.m. Liam, I know you won't reply, but I need to say this. I never actually did anything with Marissa. I just needed to see if what we had was real. I know that doesn't make sense. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I miss you. Please, if there's any part of you that still believes in us, call me. I read it twice, not because I was tempted, but because I wanted to understand the pattern one last time. Even now, he framed it as an experiment. He didn't betray me. He tested me, as if I were just another system to stress test until failure. I closed the message and created a new filter. Delete incoming mail containing Liam automatically. And then, for the first time, I clicked empty trash. The final twist. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A new message on Instagram from Eliza, a screenshot. Her caption, thought you'd want closure. It was a text thread between Liam and Marissa. Timestamp, one day before he sent me that first I'm staying at my ex's message. Liam, if she reacts badly, we'll say it was about space. If she stays calm, I'll tell her it's over in a few weeks. Marissa, what if she locks you out? Liam, she won't. Bella doesn't do chaos. She does systems. She'll think before she acts. I read it 3 times. He had predicted my composure and weaponized it. He counted on my calm. He bet that I'd be too logical to retaliate. He was right about that part. He just never realized that calm can also mean final. The choice. I didn't post about it. Didn't text him the screenshot. Didn't tell mutual friends. I simply forwarded the message to Mr. Hart, his father, with a single line. For your records, I thought you should know. He replied 10 minutes later. Thank you for your integrity, Ms. George. I'm sorry you ever had to deal with this. And just like that, the last open loop closed. The last entry. Tonight, I sat down at my desk, the same one where I built my little fortress of logic 6 weeks ago, and wrote a final log entry. Incident report, closure phase. Root cause. Lack of transparency and emotional accountability. Impact. Loss of trust. Engagement dissolved. Resolution. System separation complete. No outstanding dependencies. Follow-up action. Rebuild with better protocols. Status. Closed. I stared at the words until they stopped being sterile, until they started to sound like grace. Because this wasn't about punishing Liam anymore. It was about recognizing that sometimes clean endings are the most merciful thing you can give someone. And yourself. The final image. It's midnight now. The apartment hums like it always has. Fridge, streetlight, heartbeat. I open the balcony door, step into the wind. The city glitters, alive and indifferent. Across the street, a couple argues on their balcony, voices rising and falling like waves. I catch a phrase, you never listen. And it feels like an echo from another lifetime. I whisper to no one, I'm listening now. Then I pour the last of my wine, raise the glass to the skyline, and toast quietly to what's gone and what's next. To the lessons learned in silence, to boundaries that don't apologize for existing, to the women who rebuild without spectacle, and to every bridge that needed to burn so that I could finally learn how to stand alone and call it peace.